Hurricane Ian came through, absolutely devastating. Heard you guys talk about it on the editors with Charlie, who thankfully wasn't there. But, you know, there are friends on the Gulf Coast of Florida just really dealing with absolute devastation, Fort Myers in the area. And Joe Biden, as presidents will often do, made some phone calls to some of the standouts in the rescue effort. And that included a military hero, a Coast Guard diver, to say congratulations for a job well done. And, you know, we appreciate you. And Joe Biden actually mentioned this publicly, all right, on camera. He was out there praising Zach Lash. Here's a bit of the president in soundbite one.
I also spoke to aviation survival second class, Zach Lash, who described how difficult the decision is for people to leave everything and come to safety. I told him how proud of him I was and thanked him for all the work he and his coasties are doing to save lives.
First of all, something's going on with Biden's speech. Like he's more slurry and mumbly, right? It's like getting worse. Don't you recognize it?
Yeah. I mean, that was difficult to understand at the beginning.
Yeah. All right. So another day. Secondly, so this guy, I believe it's pronounced Lash because that's how Dana Lash spells her name and you pronounce it Lash. This guy saved a disabled woman and her husband from a bedroom in their home that they'd been trapped in. He had to kick in a wall to get to them. He strapped the woman and her wheelchair to his body and hoisted her to a waiting helicopter. This is like the stuff movies are made of. Mm-hmm. He saved the lives of several pets in the area as well. Then Breitbart News caught up with him. It was not on camera, so this is a print interview. And he told them he is due to be kicked out of the Coast Guard in the next 30 to 60 days due to Biden's vaccine mandate that affects all members of the U.S. Armed Forces. He tried to get a religious exemption. It was denied. They asked him why you didn't bring that up in your phone call with President Biden, which would have been quite a moment. And he said he didn't think it was appropriate to bring it up to him.
But he said, speaks to the kind of guy he is.
Exactly. And he said, it just sucks that he thanked me, yet the vaccine mandate is what's kicking me out. I just love my job and I'm really good at it. It sucks. I feel like this is the job I was born to do. And then he says, if I had asked any of the people I saved yesterday if they wanted to come with me, even though I'm unvaccinated, every single one of them would have said yes. Oh.
Yeah, so this is a policy that never made any sense. You know, I thought the vaccines are a great blessing. People should have gotten vaccinated. But the idea that underlying these mandates that unvaccinated people were a threat to vaccinated people made zero sense ever, right? I mean, to the extent unvaccinated are a threat to anyone, it's to themselves, right? But this is a hale and hearty guy who's lifting people on his back out of harm's way. So obviously he's not at major risk of COVID, and he's made this decision, and we should respect it. And also, even if there was a justification seemingly at the beginning of the pandemic's over, right? I mean, Biden himself has said it's over. So how possibly can you justify kicking a guy out like this? And I have a buddy, old Marine Corps officer, who's just texting me like an hour ago before came on here. Same thing. Like, he has all these friends who are still getting kicked out totally arbitrarily from the Marines, you know, and why? And just this isn't the biggest and most important example, but I'm a big Yankee fan. I watch nearly every game. And in the broadcast booth, they have Michael Kay as a play-by-play guy, another color guy, and then Paul O'Neill, Yankee great, does color, who can't come into the studio, who can't come into Yankee Stadium because he's unvaccinated. So I have the side shot of him at home in Ohio or whoever he is. It makes zero sense. And again, maybe, you know, in the initial blush of, you know, all the unknowns we had at the beginning of the pandemic, maybe you can justify doing this. I don't think it made sense then. It certainly doesn't make sense now. And it's just lunacy that's, you know, like a runaway train that no one can stop.
And it's one thing when it's, I don't know, like our school still has a vaccine mandate when the kids turn 16. I'm very much hoping they'll see the light before my son does. But all these other parents have to deal with that this year, the ones who are, you know, a couple years older than we are. And it's wrong. But that's one thing. It's another to be dealing with the U.S. military, where this year alone, the Army didn't make its recruiting goals. They fell about 15,000 soldiers short. That's 25%. Yeah, 25%. And The other branches only made their goals because they basically did some funny business with the math. Don't totally understand how it works, but they have a pool of delayed entry applicants, and the other branches just had to dig deep into those pools, which puts them behind now for the next year's recruiting. But they're playing funny business with the numbers. That's basically why they made their numbers. So we're falling at record lows between the woke military and the vaccine mandate and the 4 branches of the military, while Vladimir Putin's threatening nuclear war, okay? Because of something that, as you point out, may never have made sense, but really makes no sense now, where it doesn't prevent transmission. And these are the youngest, most able-bodied Americans we have. They're at almost no risk from COVID.
Yeah. What athlete, again, going back to sports, what athlete have we heard that got COVID that was ever in any trouble whatsoever? None. Because it's, you're going to be in trouble. Maybe there's a freak thing, but otherwise, if you have some serious underlying health condition or you're quite elderly. So again, this is science. These are facts, and the people who pride themselves supposedly being just driven by science and wholly devoted to it can't or won't absorb this. I'm no fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but last year, one reason she got suspended permanently from Twitter is she said vaccinated people were getting the virus, which was a fact, right? It was clear almost from the beginning. Initially, there's a little over-optimism about, okay, the vaccine is going to protect anyone from getting it. But then, the Omicron wave comes and everyone who's vaccinated gets it. And she can't say that. And again, by the arbiters who pride themselves on being fact-based, but they're just certain truths they refuse to acknowledge because it doesn't line up with their preferences or ideology.
And can I tell you something? I talked to a rheumatologist about this. It matters that these vaccines don't prevent COVID, because that means you could get a vaccine and very shortly thereafter you could get COVID, okay? And that double hit to your immune system that close in time actually can and is causing potential autoimmune problems. And I heard that directly from one of the top rheumatologists in New York City. So the fact that they don't prevent you from getting it it's like, so if you get the vaccine, unless you're going to go in lockdown, you are at risk for this double dose of COVID. It's basically getting COVID done twice, sort of, in a very short amount of time. So no wonder these top athletes and our Navy SEALs and guys like, Lash don't want to do this. He's busy saving actual lives and having to strap women with their wheelchairs to him. Can't afford to be compromised in that way.
Yeah. So again, based on the initial information we had, I was still happy to let people be unvaccinated and have no mandate, because I just think our society should have the widest possible latitude for people to make their own individual choices, and we should accommodate eccentrics on such questions. I thought it made sense to get vaccinated. I got vaccinated, boosted, and got the virus. So I got the triple dose, I guess. But some people disagreed. And why would you want to crush them or chase them out of their livelihood, and especially now? And circling back to the military recruitment thing, this is a serious issue that has really important repercussions for the health and defense of our society. I think that once you subtract all the people who are disqualified for various reasons from the military, either they can't do it, or they don't have the educational credentials, or they smoked pot, or they have tattoos. It's only about a quarter of the population that you're talking about. And then you have a tight labor market. And then you have a military that's very unattractive. They're cracking down on people on the vaccines. They have all this woke stuff. And on top of that, you have patriotism kind of at a low ebb, or at least our elite institutions constantly pushing back against it. And then you get, maybe, if this keeps going, the meltdown or the degrading of an all voluntary military, which has been a pillar of our self-defense for 40 or 50 years now. That's a huge deal.
It's depressing. Have you ever had a friend who is naturally talented at things? They just pick up a sport or a hobby or a thing and they immediately become good at it, make it look easy. If you don't have that friend, it's you. And we're all secretly jealous of you. The good news is, no matter who you are, you can make great food look easy with Good Ranchers. They source the highest quality meat in America, and they can prove it. Each piece of meat is from real American farms and hand cut and trimmed by real American workers. They only source from farms that meet their standards of excellence, which means no antibiotics ever and no added hormones. Good Ranchers is so confident in the quality they sell that they have a 100% satisfaction guarantee on every box they ship to you. Plus, you can use my code MEGAN to get free shipping and $30 off on your first order. This is America's best meat and seafood, sold by some of America's best people. They have won awards like Best Food Subscription, but their mission is still the same, bringing everyone to the table to share in the best of what makes life good. If you want the best, go with Good Ranchers. Visit goodranchers.com/Megan to save on American meat delivered right to your door. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.